Hello, everyone, and welcome to Awaken to Happiness Now. I'm your host, Shefali Burns. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited about my special guest today. I know we're at a special time for a special guest. Her name is Sarah Jane Farrell, and we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Sarah Jane. Where am I? Here we go. So Sarah Jane Farrell is a world-renowned vibrational alchemist, multisensory intuitive consultant, and powerful spirited teacher. As a life design strategist and possibility activator, she is most recognized for her ability to instantly change vibrational frequencies in diseased bodies of people and animals, lift depression and mental anguish, and connect others to their intuition to know what they know. She assists people and animals to live in their true nature and access their dreams, desires, and prosperity abundance. She leads people just like you to claim your birthright of a successful, meaningful, and peaceful joy of business called living in your true nature. Through humor and intensity, when required, she will remind you of your I am presence and facilitate your acknowledging your unique talents and abilities to put the I am possible into the impossible. So journey with Sarah Jane to liberate yourself from the severe limitations that come from five-sensory perception when we have, in fact, six senses, and open yourself up to the joys, healing, and personal empowerment of six-sensory living. So we're going to get started. So welcome to the show, Sarah Jane.
Thank you, Shefali. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, I'm excited about, we're going to be talking about so much. Some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is ghosts and entities. We're going to be talking about how to stay connected to your physical body, how to identify what's your inner voice and when it's not you. We're going to talk about how to clear entities. We're going to talk about employing spirit guides and team players. I mean, all sorts of fun stuff. So before we start all that, Sarah Jane, can you tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you got started to being who you are now?
That's a really long story, but I'll try and make it short. I think that for me it really has been a very interesting journey. I realized from a very early age, I grew up in the bush in Zimbabwe, in Africa, and my backyard was really the wild and the animals and everything else. And I didn't really realize until I was probably 5 or 6 that people would get really, really uncomfortable when I'd start to talk about my imaginary friend. I had one called Xylon, which is not a name that a 5-year-old would kind of come up with. It's kind of not like Anne or Jane or Peter. Mm-hmm. So I learned to shut down really, really early and get really confused about, what people wanted from me. So people pleasing became something that was very much a coping mechanism for me to fit in. And I think that really was my true nature, was to just be away from people, because animals just don't judge us, do they? So, I think around 7, I had quite a big trauma when I saw my father shoot a beautiful big buck, and I really connected with that animal. It was like I was that animal, and I remember just feeling absolute sheer horror and panic at what had just happened. And that ability that we're all born with, that innate wisdom of knowing how to intuit without words, mm-hmm. I started to shut it down. And I just was a little strange. I didn't really fit in. I was what they, labeled me, everything from functional, autistic, to bipolar, to childhood depression. So I was really made wrong from a very early age for not fitting in, and it tormented me for a long time. Right up until my 20s and 30s, I kind of was handling it with the normal drug route of, antidepressants. I was put on lithium and all sorts of things, and I really bought into that this was how I was going to be, kind of zombified out and kind of really flat, like nothing, like disconnected or detached from the world. And I tried drugs and alcohol and all sorts of things, and spent thousands of dollars in therapy trying to find, what was wrong with me. So it was really only in my early 30s, I think, that I looked like I had a great life. I had a great business. I'd always been an entrepreneur. And something just triggered me to the place where I really felt like I was going insane. And I just couldn't shut out the voices. I couldn't shut out the noise. And I had several attempts at taking my own life before that, but the insomnia, the depression, that feeling of being so trapped just became so unbearable. And that, for me, I would say it wasn't a breakdown. It was more like a psycho-spiritual lobotomy, where I woke up and decided that, you know what, I was going to turn things around. So, you know, from then I was like a psychic sponge. I was really started looking at what it all meant, and started to switch on that intuitive capacity in a way that I was able to handle what was coming into me without making myself wrong. So, you know, for the last 18 years, I've really taken every modality out there, from acupuncture to moxibustion to psychotherapy, working with equine psychotherapy, and really bringing what I know through my own life story and experiences to let people know that there's an easier way than what I chose. You know, it wasn't the most easeful way, but I'm grateful now that every part of it that came to me was really a gift to get me to the place now where I can facilitate other people to know that, you know, they can change this. So that was a long story.
No, that was wonderful, and
it's pretty much.
But thank you so much for sharing that, because you're being so authentic and honest and vulnerable with us. So thank you for that, because, you know, people don't realize what all we have been through. You know, sometimes they think that because everything looks so wonderful right now, they don't realize what we might have gone through in the past to get to this point, right?
Exactly. And, you know, I just really also think that, you know, we're all human. We're all here having a human experience, and it is a bumpy road. You know, I often find people talking about, you know, they just want balance, or they just want peace and calm. But, you know, it's just like really about getting in touch, as you said, you know, coming from that space of total vulnerability where I don't have the answers. I only have questions.
Yeah.
And through my own experiences and challenges, that's what makes me, you know, become more of me. And that's really what I want for everyone, you know, to really know that there is an easier way to get there.
I love that. Thank you. And, you know, I feel like we're soul sisters, because that's exactly what I want, you know, and that's the point of me doing these shows, is that I want to give people more tools and processes and different things, different ways of being, so that they can be more of themselves and not have to take the path that we've taken, you know, like not do all the things that we've done, you know, like do it differently, you know, do it easy, with more ease, you know, because yeah, we we did everything the hard way, right? So, I'm sure there's an easier way, right? So thank you for that. So we're going to be talking, so if people have a question for Sarah Jane, you can hit *2 to raise your hand, or you can submit a question on the Q&A, and we'll see what kind of questions we get today, because we're talking about a lot of stuff, right? We're going to be talking about entities, and we're going to be talking about how to trust ourselves and our knowing, and how to empower ourselves, and I mean, like, there's just so much, and just trusting our intuition and connecting to our intuition and things like that. So where do you want to start? Because, you know, Sarah Jane and I, when we first talked about this, you know, our call a while ago, it's like there's so much, you know, that she does, and she's so talented. What do we want to share with everybody? Like, where do you want to start?
That's a good question. So, yeah, I'm just tapping into that energy of you know, what people want to hear. I think, you know, the main thing is that, and the commonality is really that feeling, I think, that we all feel that we're separate, you know, and that everything that we create as challenge and struggle is here to teach us how to up-level that consciousness and to receive support, you know, from Mother Earth, from the animals, from nature, from each other. And, you know, I often hear people that bring their children to me, especially say, you know, they have ADD or ADHD or something like that. And for me, it's really about attention nature deficit, that we have to remember that we're spiritual beings, and it's our choice to let go of those lower vibrational things. And for me, it's about connecting back with the earth, because the earth is an entity too. You know, the earth is a living, breathing, organic being, and nature's showing us abundance all the time, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, it's just like the trees don't hold back and say, oh gosh, you know, I didn't get enough rain this summer, so I'm not going to put out the best show. Nature just shows us how to be in that constant, perpetual cycle of death and rebirth all the time. And we seem to be the only, you know, beings on the planet that seem to come from lack and scarcity. So, you know, I think we believe ourselves to be limited and fearful, but now, you know, it really is that time, and it's an exciting time where we can know that we're totally supported, and there's so many amazing people out there like you, Shefali, that are showing people that there is a better way and an easier way, and those feminine energies are really urging us to heal what I call separation sickness. You know, it's like, what happened to our hearts? You know, without the judgment and the fear, who could we be from a space of knowing that we're totally connected and remembering to live from the heart too?
Yeah, and it's all about, you know, connecting to the heart and living from the heart space, which, you know, I talk about it all the time, but I don't always do it. A lot of times I end up in my head and it's like, oh yeah, I have to you know, go back to the heart space, focus from there, live from there, you know, think from there, right?
Exactly. And what if that is just that remembering who we are in that infinite space of being? You know, we're human beings, but we are infinite. You know, we're as big as the universe. We're the space between it, and that's that beautiful tapestry that sort of weaves us all together into, you know, into being supported and being willing to receive that. So, you know, without making it wrong, it's just that constant awareness, which is all consciousness really is, isn't it? Is to just remember that, you know, where we have hearts, you know, we have this beautiful heart brain. And yes, I'm a head tripper too. So I totally get you when you're saying we live in so much in our heads. It's like we have to remember that we have this beautiful conscious facilitator called our bodies that's giving us signals and reminding us all the time that we've been taught to avoid pain at all costs, rather than having that as an intensity or an awareness to get back into our heart space and out of our heads. So I think it is just you know, it's an exercise and practice that we have to keep reminding ourselves, you know, what matters to us from the heart.
Absolutely. You know, and I wanted to talk about, you know, we talked about very briefly about entities, and, you know, entities this season I'm finding, you know, since I never really thought about entities, you know, at all before, but, you know, since January of this year, a lot of people have talked about entities on the calls, and they've asked about entities, and they've asked about those dark energies, and it's like, I didn't realize that there was a problem, an issue, that people were being challenged with that, you know. So do you want to touch on that briefly about entities and dark energies, and, you know, what they are and how to deal with them, how to clear them, how to center ourselves so we're not affected by them? I could be putting you on the spot right now.
Absolutely, it's one of my favorite topics. My child is 4 when she's 8 now, but when she was 4, it was like, who would not want to know, you know, or be aware that yes, there are other forces at play, and just like there are good and bad people in bodies, there's good and bad entities that don't have bodies, and you know, and then there's light bodies too that are here to support and uplift us out of the darkness. And all we have to do is really ask, and they'll assist us. And some people call it God Source, the divine, angels. There's animal totems and spirits. And you know, the true definition of an entity is in the
Mhm. So we may lose Sarah Jane from time to time because whenever we were talking about this before the call, but she mentioned that when she starts talking about entities, sometimes there's distortions on the call.
Yeah, or your voice just now when you said that got really, really distorted. So, you know, it's just like if we're willing to know that sometimes a loved one that's passed wants to communicate with you, you know, how would you know? How would you know what is your voice in your head? You know, when I talk about, I think we called this call, you know, are you ready to dance on the dark side of the moon? And I just love that because it's like we've been there's a lot of woo-woo around entities, and that it's taboo to talk about them. I think it's getting, you know, more now as conscious.
See, there, there she goes, but she'll come back. So this is the thing with entities. Sometimes, especially on calls, the electronic equipment gets a little bit weird, you know, and distorted because of these entities, these energies, and it's like they want our attention, you know. They want either they want to talk to us, or they just sometimes just want us to know that they're even there, right? And sometimes we don't think about that, because you know I know I don't think about entities very often. I'll be honest, I don't. And as I'm saying that, you know, you just heard my throat go a little funny for a minute there. So it's quite possible that there are other entities around. I mean, there always are other entities around us, right? And but they don't always affect me, you know, that much. But today, because of the nature of the call, they may. So Sarah Jane is back.
I'm back. Sorry. Yeah, I told you this happens sometimes, so I just asked for all the entities to actually support this call so that I can stay on the line. That would be really, really nice. But yeah, so I was just asking you before I got rudely interrupted, you know, have you ever sort of been doing something and out of the corner of your eye you sort of see a flash or something moving past you? You know, and we all have these moments, and we think, oh, well, that couldn't be, or the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you just know that there's something else there. So, you know, it's just like they're not always there to do harm, like we talk about psychic attack, and we'll get into that a little later. But, you know, it's like if we look at entities as just beings that don't have bodies, as well as beings in bodies, you know, they occupy spaces for various reasons, and it's not something that needs to be a mystery or to be feared. And it's really, really, you know, I want everybody to know that you can, you know, just by asking questions, you can change the energy of it, and not have to make it significant either. And the body's the best way, really, because the body's much more, the physical body is much more willing to be aware of those subtle energies that we have been told to ignore or dismiss as imagination or not there. So your body will often give you physical signs that there may be a being without a body that wants to communicate with you. And, you know, for me, sometimes it's a ringing in my ears. Sometimes it's sporadic coughing, so you'll just start coughing out of nowhere. And when we're children as well, a lot of the time, especially around 4, when we're in that second house of feeling everything from a sense, you know, multi-sensory direction, children often talk about having a sore tummy, you know, that their stomach is sore. Rashes is another thing, you know, or headaches or anger that sort of comes out of nowhere, where you just kind of even say to yourself sometimes, I really don't feel like myself. You know, I'm not in my right mind. And oftentimes we're not, because there are entities at play. You know, and depression too. When I finally got the awareness that all those years where I was really, really sad and depressed and I just wanted to go away from my body, it's a little bit different energy here. And tell me to slow down if I go too quickly, because I start getting really, really carried away with this. But, you know, it's a really lovely awareness to have, that sometimes if you're feeling down, that we're all intuitive, and we're like these big giant SpongeBob SquarePants, and we're picking up other people's energies anyway. So whether they're in bodies or without our bodies, we are picking up as empaths other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions all the time. So, to just ask questions like, is this yours? Does this belong to me? Is going to give you some awareness of what is or isn't yours. Bipolar is a little bit different in that people that often suffer from that label, if you want to call it that. And please know, I'm not saying that we need to buy into any of this too. So it is a big subject, but just note too, it's like a lot of people say that you can't be affected by energies, or people. So that's people that are attacking you, or an energy that you can't see, that you're feeling psychically attacked, unless you buy into it. But for me, I know, being in that place, it's very, very real sometimes. Bipolar, getting back to that, is a little different from depression, which is you picking up other people's energies or other beings' energies of how they're feeling, is wanting to be here, wanting to be in a body, and not wanting to be here and not wanting to have a body. Because remember, we're infinite beings anyway.
Yep.
So it's just an awareness that sometimes has changed people's lives, to just ask them that question, is it even yours? Does it belong to you? Or, do you have a capacity to change energies? Because, if entities that don't have bodies are aware that you can hear them or see them or sense them, and it really depends. Oftentimes we're stronger in one sense than the other. So sometimes people have a taste. I often smell violets when my grandmother, who is no longer with us, is in the room. So that, they will show you who they are if you just ask. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's not always the case, but on a psychological thing too, how you know whether it's you or not you is when I used to want, when I was really suicidal, I would hear, you are stupid, you're worthless, you need to kill yourself. And people often with addictions, my father was a second-generation alcoholic, and I realized when I had these tools, when I started to clear the entities off of him, he no longer wanted to drink. And it was, all the entities that wanted to have a drink were, using my father as a vehicle to drink for them.
Right.
So it has many facets, and often if you're hearing voices that are saying you wouldn't talk to yourself in the third person. You would say, I need to do something. You wouldn't say you need to do something. So that's a really key awareness to have, that if you hear those, inner demons in your head telling you to do things that are not necessarily to your benefit, that it might not be you that's saying that.
Sorry, I'm yawning. So it's like, we haven't even done any energy processes, but I'm yawning, which means that I'm experiencing some energy right now on the call.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. So it is yay, because it's like how many people have shut down that awareness that they can create more change. A lot of entities don't know that they don't have bodies anymore. I find this also, especially working with animals, if a cat or a dog's been hit by a car, and their owner is looking for them, and they're wondering where their animal is. When I have communication with them, first thing I always look for is if there are entities there, and if they know that they're still in their physical bodies. Because if they've been hit that quickly, so if death comes very fast to a person as well, a lot of times they don't know that they don't have a physical body anymore. So how much of a kindness can it be for you to actually say to them, hey, you don't have a body anymore, and telling them that they can have, make the choice to move on or find another body.
Right.
So it changes death too.
Yeah.
It gives death a whole other meaning. And this is, again, what I love about working with animals, is that they don't have the same fixed point of views about life being finite. They just know that, you know, when their bodies get old and they start to hurt and they start to atrophy, that they go, hey, you know what, this body's not fun anymore. I'm going to leave and go and get myself a new body. We're the ones that are trying to patch ourselves up. So
Right.
it really gives death a whole different perspective to know that there really is no death.
That's true. So I have a question from somebody. They had raised their hand a while ago. Do you want to do you want to take that question just to see what's
Sure.
going on? This is area code 610, I think, in Pennsylvania. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, who's this?
How are you both? Hello, ladies.
Fantastic.
Hi.
It's, you know what? Now, this is one of these strange things in life. I've had some very profound things that needed to be done today. Or well, no, this was a profound draw to be on this call, but I had desperate things that needed to be done, but something said, no, you need to make this call, and I'm the first person you're talking to.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
okay, my head is spinning. I hope that I make everybody else's head spin here. All right, you just hit on a couple of things that hit dead home. So when you said 610, I almost hit the floor. I deal with depression and deal with anxiety disorder. I also know I'm an empath. Also know I'm a mess at times with these things because I feel everything that is around me. Now, this has been 2 years from now, but I'm a fighter. I'm a believer. I'm a pretty strong person. I've gone through a lot. But now, in addressing the animal things, I had a little Shih Tzu for 10 years that I still swear wasn't a dog. I swore she was just like my daughter. And I battled for 2 years with renal failure, and she had gone blind. She knew my whole house, 4 levels of it, and still had more gumption than most people that I know. And she was my rock in life, as I was with hers. And she battled back and forth, and she was still happy. In October, she died in my arms. When she first had a seizure, or wherever it was, April 2 years ago, this is the best I can explain it. She whimpered. I picked her up. She folded in half like a noodle, and she was out. I thought she was dead. 5 minutes later, she's up, she's wagging her tail. But it was at that point when that happened, I felt that part of me died with her. Even though that happened 3 times within the course of 5 days, the rest of that part of me has never come back. And now that I've lost her, it's a very, I can't even explain that. But now 2 months ago, a close girlfriend and neighbor of 37 years called me, was calling an ambulance to go to the hospital, and I'm the one that followed the ambulance. I was the second to the last one that saw her. We thought that she was only calling to, we were going to get the call to come pick her up. That night we find out that the hospital had made an error and she was dead. So I'm carrying around a lot of things here, feeling, oh my God, if I could have stayed there, if my instincts would have led me different, I would have been there. I could have stopped different things. I could have been there holding her hand. These 2 deaths are haunting me, and they're stopping me from everything. Plus, I feel that there's another entity that always has a way in my life of keeping me down. So if any of that's made sense, Merry Christmas. That's where I'm at.
All right. So can I ask you some questions?
Of course.
All right. So first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, but you know that I think that a lot of times that our animals, so just to deal with the animal part first, is that yes, it is possible that your daughter came back, not maybe in the body of your dog if there was that resonance with you, but also sometimes they send us animals to just let us know that, we're not alone and that they're still with us. A lot of times, too, animals will take on our physical dis-ease, which is just the opposite of being easy, too. So, I wonder how much of of her being with you and what she, what she took on into her physical body until her body couldn't endure it anymore was part of her facilitating her path. And a lot of times these are seed and soul contracts too. So they, just as we come in with purposes or a target to raise consciousness in our own unique way, so do the animals. So just own and acknowledge that she was here, and she, that there is nothing to haunt you with that anymore. That I very much sense that she's still with you, and that she will be coming back. You can ask if they're coming back again.
You can.
So please know, yeah, you can, and you can ask them for a sign. How would you recognize them, and what will they look like? And you can even ask a time frame. So, if you'd like to know more of that, we can certainly get into that in another call.
That would be great.
With your, and
just
with your friends, yes.
If I could intercept just on that part, the night that she died, I knew, and she always stayed by me. I mean, she would sleep over my head in the morning, like hugging me. And, all 9 pounds of her, like she was protecting me. But we had made a promise, in essence, when she had first started to get sick. I said, please don't do this to me. I can't cope with this right now. And it was like she stuck with me. And I said, I will be there with you right until the end. And I held her to the end. And I said to her, if it's your time, just know that I'm here. It's your time, know that I'm here. I'll miss you as much as I loved you. So I know that bond is still very much there.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So it's just like you can ask if she's coming back, but please know too that you can ask for her assistance, for her guidance, for anything. She's still there. She just doesn't have a body anymore. And with your friend too, it's like, we all choose to leave our bodies when we choose to leave them. So it may not make sense to you. So anywhere where you're in doubt or regret or in any kind of way holding yourself responsible for your friend's choice to leave her body when she did, how she did, would you be willing to just forgive yourself and dissolve it, transmute it, delete it across all time, space, dimension, and reality? And just let it go.
I've been trying, believe me.
Yeah. So, you mentioned that you are empathic, and, a lot of us who are sensitive will choose that sort of direction of helping, especially with addictions. And you mentioned that you assist people with psycho, did you say depression? And
no, I said I deal with. I have.
Oh, you have depression.
Yes, I deal with depression and anxiety disorder.
Okay. Yeah, and too, sometimes anxiety disorders or any kind of phobia or fear that you don't really know where it comes from, like there's no cognitive reason for it to be occurring in your life. It just comes out of nothing. Oftentimes, that would indicate that perhaps you are a portal. So, a person or a place or a thing can be a portal, and portals are not always good. They're not always bad either. But, you have to be in a question to know what kind of portal you may be. So, I'll ask you another question. Truth, do you have the capacity to take pain, suffering, and disease out of other people and other animals' bodies and put it in yours as if that's the only way to create change for them? And you can go with whatever's light for you.
I guess I can answer that by saying that I know that I'm the, what seems to be the eternal caregiver in life. And I'm the first one to reach out, and I'm the first one. I read something very recently with HSPs that we're talking about. Would you be the person who would be willing to stop and hold the hand of a dying person, even if that person was a stranger? And that would be me. So I guess that is kind of the answer to what I am like in life. What do you need? How can I help? And how can I be there?
And that's beautiful. So would you just own and acknowledge that is a capacity that you have, but it doesn't have to be a haunting or a struggle, that as you were saying that you struggle with it. And
well,
perhaps...
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and perhaps, this is something that, if you're resonating with this, that you may want to look at the package that Shefali and I have created for this show, or give me a call later, and I'd be really, really honored and privileged to assist you, maybe looking at whether there are entities on your body. It's a bit of a lengthy process, so I don't want to, get into it on the show. But if that's something that could contribute to changing this for you and making it easier for you, to actually create a great life and go on and do what it is that you're here to change, I would be only too happy to assist you with that.
Alan, I would be so appreciative and honored. And how would I make that contact?
If you go onto the link which Shefali will give you at the end of the show, you'll find my details.
Okay. I thank you so very much. There's so much within there that you try to disperse, but you can only disperse so much.
Yeah.
It clamps
we could try
to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And
we will be doing. I will be doing a clearing a little later on, so that may create some change for you as well, on just how to release some of that for you, all of it. What would it take if we could get you to a place of more ease? So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
Great questions, and that caller was able to, really let us understand more about entities as it relates to so many different things, animals and even addictions and everything else that we talked about. So, she really resonated with what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just like we all know it, and yet we're taught to pretend that it's not there. And, what if it really was as easy as just being able to look at it and know that there's something in there? And I always say to people, and to myself a lot too, it's like, what if every challenge, what if every bump in the road, what if those inner mean girls, those demonic thoughts that we have can be changed just by asking a question or stepping up into a different place of knowing that maybe it's not even yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times it's not ours, because a lot of times those thoughts that we have could be, thoughts from our parents, from our siblings, from our society, from our next door neighbor, and they might not necessarily be our own.
Exactly. And I know when we were talking the other day, you were saying that you really were noticing that you felt like you had also been under some energetic psychic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to play havoc with our bodies. And this year especially, I found it's been pretty rough going, actually, as we sort of have one foot in the third dimensional ego, self-based reality, and the other one in the fifth dimension. The heart is that fourth dimensional space, and I'm really sensing that a lot of false prophets, a lot of demonic energies are coming down. And psychic attack has a couple of layers to it, and we all recognize it. And it's like when someone's mad at you and they attack you, just like when someone is mad at you and you scream out, and you freak out, and you go into this big adrenal response, and we start to defend from that place. Essentially it's when someone's not happy with you, and it's regardless of what realm that they're in, but they're attacking you because either you're taking responsibility for them, just like the caller that we just spoke to was saying that she felt responsible for not being there for her friend. Sometimes even if we have a fragment of their soul, or you're from those seed contracts or past life contracts, or you're attached to their journey or their growth or their evolution or their process or behavior, though that person or being perceives that you're doing this for them, and then you have information for them that you haven't given them in another lifetime, that you agreed to give them on some level. So if you're holding that vibration of victim, or your soul is determined to acquire that vibration of empowerment, then we're going to feel like we're being attacked physically or energetically or physically, so that we actually can look at it to get stronger and empower ourselves to know that we can only be responsible for our own choices. That was a mouthful. I don't even get going. I can't stop. But yeah, it's almost like something takes over, and it's just like, this information is important in setting ourselves free. You know, we all talk about wanting to be free, wanting to have more calmness or peace in our life, and it really is just that easy, you know, to just know that we're infinite beings, and your higher self also is just wanting or urging us or inviting us to activate that vibration of empowerment from our true nature, and then release everybody from needing to help you move into that greater degree of empowerment. So it's not their responsibility or your responsibility or your job, and all you have to do is to just invite your higher self, your infinite being, or your diva's higher self. You can invite your team spirit to just retrieve and own and acknowledge all responsibility to move into a higher degree of consciousness. And then you, at the level of your highest self, can then hold full responsibility to activate that, instead of having to use situations of being physically or energetically attacked. And that's really, for me, what empowerment really is just to step back and own and acknowledge what's yours and what's not yours. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense, but sometimes we don't know what's ours and what's not ours unless we ask questions. Yeah, I just answered my own question.
Yeah. And you know, the other piece around that too is that and I'm talking particularly about sort of feeling like you're responsible, or that you have to change something for somebody else, is that, you know, if you, and this is kind of a little bit of a sticky thing that sometimes people don't want to hear, so if it's not light and true for you, check it out. But if you've harmed somebody in this lifetime or another lifetime, every single time we harm someone, including judgment is also, you know, it's abuse, then what we do is it creates like this tiny fragment of energy that you take, and then anytime we harm in a larger way, like, you know, the insanities of this world, like rape and torture, or we kill somebody, sometimes we take a larger piece of their energy, and then their body team or their soul's energy carries it with them. Because as infinite beings, we don't really die. I mean, energy doesn't stop. And what we seem to forget is that if we've made a promise or a vow or an oath or a contract, a binding and bonding contract, or a fealty in any other lifetime, what we often forget is that being infinite beings, we carry that magnetic imprint back into this lifetime. So a lot of people that have addictive, perverted, obsessive behaviors, or they, you know, I have a friend, she keeps saying, you know, why do I keep choosing abusive men? So sometimes that can be from another lifetime, an 8th chakra memory of being abused or being the abuser. So we come in this lifetime as the opposite of that, to have that experience. So as uncomfortable as it is to go into abuse, especially when it's children, you know, or animals, for me, when I look at that energy, I usually, not always, but oftentimes I can track that back through my system, and find that individual in another lifetime traumatized or harmed or killed. And sometimes we're the observer of that too. So, you know, when we can go back and find that 8th chakra, then we can change it. And it's really just about moving the energy. And then that person, you know, doesn't have that chronic anxiety or phobia anymore. It just sort of goes away. And it's done, because the magnetic imprinting dissipates, and then that person gets to have a different experience without having to go back and change something anymore.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about that before, Sarah Jane.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah, that's totally brand new for me about. I mean, yes, I know about, past lives and, karma and actions that we've taken in the past, and sometimes in this lifetime we come back to, from the opposite experience, and so on. But I didn't realize that it had to do with the chakras, and that you can go back into the chakra and release it in like that. That was a new thing for me to learn.
Awesome. Yeah, and you probably do know. It just sounds a little different. Soul retrieval. I remember a while ago in my seeking, I always wondered. It's like if you didn't have a reference to a photograph. Have you ever had those moments where someone will go back, into memories and go, oh, remember that time when this and this and this happened?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I used to call them I used to like to say those were my black holes, and I spent a ton of money going into past life regressions and trying to retrieve parts of me where I had absolutely no recollection of that timeline in my life. And what my awareness on that is that if you choose your parents or you choose your life and you come in to have an experience and something happens, and it doesn't have to be a big trauma, but say you were, perceived the energy of your father coming in drunk and screaming and shouting, and you were hiding under the table in absolute fear of being, backhanded or seeing your mother getting beaten up, that you, the being in the body, would say, crap, I didn't sign up for this, I'm out of here. So the original occupant of the body leaves, and it's like you really have the empty to let sign over your head saying, empty body, room to let, and another being that resonates with that same vibrational frequency of the body at the time hops into the body. So a lot of us are not the original occupant of the body.
Oh, right, yes.
So when I kind of got that awareness, I was like, oh my God, that's great. I don't have to try and go back to find out why I didn't remember lots of timelines in my life. I'm still me, but I don't have memory of that timeline. It's quite that'll mess with your brain. But it's just like, for me, it gave me a sense of peace that, okay, great, that was light for me, and now it's like, okay, how can I create my life from here? Because a lot of times we leave the body too. A lot of people, when they're in pain, it's just so intense that a lot of times we're outside of our body, and I mean our physical body.
Yeah.
So the body's taking the abuse, but we, the infinite being, are observing our physical body having the abuse.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can relate to that.
So, So it's important to not make any of it significant, because the other side of abuse can also be that you as an infinite being know exactly what you're choosing, and vows or promises of saving other people can also come into play when you will knowingly take on the role of victim to save somebody else from that persecutor or attacker. So again, I see that as a gift and a capacity that you have, and oftentimes just having that awareness for somebody that has been raped takes them out of being victim and into a very empowered place of using their story not as to stay in the victimology or the lower vibration of the abuse, but to change other people's lives. It's very inspiring when you can give people information like that and just see how they thrive from that place of no longer having to buy the story of the abuse.
Absolutely. I agree. One of the things we haven't discussed yet, I don't think, unless I missed it, was how to stay connected to your physical body. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So, a kind of, again, it's like we kind of mentioned that when we're in pain, so that could be physical pain or emotional pain of some sort, we leave our physical bodies. we go outside of our body. So sometimes just noticing where did you go in that moment will give you the awareness that you're no longer connected to your physical body. And we can do this if you'd like. Do you want to do a quick little exercise to connect with your physical body?
Yes, please. Yep, that'd be great.
Okay, good. I mean, one way of doing it too is to connect with the earth. And a great way to do that is what people call earthing. You know, take your feet off, take your shoes off, and just, you know, walk in the sand or connect with the beautiful, nurturing energies of the earth. What I sometimes find, though, is that it's really a disconnect with the physical body. So just for now, take a deep breath. And just notice where you are in your body. Are you in front? Are you behind? Are you in your body? Just notice where you are. And it'll be different for each one of us. All right. And now I want you to take that. It's the dark side. So, you know, the mirror side, the parts and pieces of you that you're not willing to see. So you push them outside of you. And just take them. And if you like, I like to kind of look at my energetic ankles. So I see me, the other me, the anti-me, the outside of me. And just pull that being gently. And just keep pulling and pulling until you bring it back into your body. And it may take a few seconds or minutes, but just making that request to bring all of you back into your physical body will connect you back in to that joy of embodiment. I mean, we've chosen bodies to have a physical experience, so, you know, it would be nice if we stopped leaving our bodies behind and actually stayed and enjoyed our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm one of those people who does not stay in the body very often. You know, I'm always disconnected from the body. So for me, it's like I'm constantly taking a deep breath in just so that I can connect, you know, to take a deep breath so I can connect, right? And actually focusing, you know, on being in the body, because I don't think I'm really in the body that much. I even have an earthing sheet. I even have one of those earthing mats and everything, and I still don't think I'm grounded.
I know, and that's just something too, you know, and this is where it gets really fun in my world too, because when you start looking at astrology and the different influences of the planets and you know, just the whole crystalline grid that we're all kind of tapped into. Yes, we do leave. You know, if I'm an air sign, I'm a Gemini, and I also have a very strong lunar influence, so I am a lunatic. Most of the time, you know, I am kind of crazy dancing on the madness, you know, the other side of madness. But it's just like, what if that was okay too? Is, you know, you can keep yourself expanded out to the outside edges of the universe, but stay connected to your body. So use what works for you, Shefali, and breath is a beautiful way, you know, to just focus on breath to connect you in. And also, I like to spin. Put a spin on it too. So, you know, if you like to pull up the colors, another nice way to sort of stay out of that phobic sort of anxiety where we go into head tripping and into the past or into the future, to just stay present in the moment, is to bring in a beautiful red-orange color into your awareness. And then to bring in the higher sort of blue-violet. Those two colors really seem to calm, especially children that are sensitive. So, you know, autistic children or children that that look like they're outside all the place. You know, the wanderers that can't keep focus, which I really resonate with too, and I think you do too. Is just to you know, wrap yourself in those beautiful colors and get an anti-clockwise spin on it. You know, everything's moving in an anti-clockwise spin, and we've been going, you know, our body as the electrical component of the spine, we've been spinning the other way for a long time. So it's really to get that spin on, and also to, you know, you could use your sacred geometric shapes or mandalas or your earthing mat that you have, and just just play with the energy of just asking your body to start putting an anti-clockwise spin on it, so that we really start to go in communion with and I'm doing that now as I'm sitting here and kind of like spinning myself around. It's a nice trip. But yeah, so that's a really, really nice way to keep yourself present with your body, is just to remember to stay present. And it is a muscle that, you know, the more aware we are, I think the easier that it gets.
Yeah.
Just that constant state of staying present and staying with your body.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a great trick. I like that, because that's something I have to consciously, you know, work on all the time. It is what it is.
It could be that easy. You know, it is really that simple that, you know, it's like the work then becomes play, because you're starting to play with the energies of string theory and quantum physics, actually, because you're starting to be bigger than, you know, the molecules and the cells of our body, but still stay connected with that.
So, okay, the other thing I really wanted to talk about is how to employ our spirit guides and team players to assist us in our everyday life, because it's all about the everyday life. How can we get more help in our everyday life?
Yeah, how can you? Just by simply asking a question of, you know, who is the appropriate guide, who is the appropriate person, and that could be in or without a body. It could be animal totem as well, that you could bring in the energy that is most suited to support you in getting more clarity on whatever that is that you're, you know, perhaps having a challenge with. And just by asking, they will come in and support you. A lot of people love the angels, so, you know, Archangel Michael is a beautiful one for children. And what if it was just as simple as actually asking the most appropriate energies to come in and support you in whatever that is, so that you can evolve and grow, and then you can know that you're actually never alone. And, you know, Christ consciousness is another nice one. So, you know, you can employ your team players, your body, David's highest self, Christ consciousness. And also what I like to play with is that I like to employ my infinite being of the future, so my future self.
Interesting.
You know, oftentimes, how often do we say, oh, you know what, if I had to come back as a teenager, and you often see people going to conclusions about, oh gosh, I never want to be a teenager again, but I would come back as a teenager if I knew what I knew now. So how much fun would it be if you could actually ask your future self, the infinite being in the future, and the guides to energetically retrieve any of the fragments that you're carrying for yourself or other individuals across that time-space continuum, and all the parallel dimensions too, to send the appropriate energetic information to you, so that you can expand into a different space of being. That's way more fun. I get really excited when I start to think about that, because, you know, what if we've just actually just sent that request? You know, it is that easy.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so light, and it's just, it makes me happy.
And it can be so easy.
Really. It is. It really is that easy.
Okay, so I know there's so many things that we wanted to talk about. How can we receive messages from our departed loved ones? Did we talk about that? I didn't even see that there before.
Yeah. Yeah, so how could you ask for them to give you information? A lot of times, again, you know, you'll notice this too, and it kind of ties into that place of where we go into doubt or create some kind of confusion to put us out of knowing when we've got some kind of energetic awareness from past one, you know, people that we love, or like that lady with her dog. You know, they're there all the time, but you have to ask. So if you're aware of how they would come to you, you can ask them to show you. And a lot of time, how I identify that it's not me is at the speed at which the information comes. So sometimes it'll be it sort of comes as a total surprise that all of a sudden you start thinking about your granny that's passed, or your dog that's passed, or you may get a smell. A lot of times it'll be directionality, where it's coming from, because it's just not you, and oftentimes the information is just not cognitive. It's not something, or it's not languaging that you would use. Sometimes it's a very clear sign, and sometimes it'll show up in your body too, or a smell, you know, the smell of coffee beans, if your mother made a great cup of coffee, or so it's just, again, I think about being willing to be open to receive those messages, and to just ask, you know, who are you? Are you here for me? Because sometimes if entities or past ones that are no longer in their body know that you can hear them, or you're willing to receive the information from you, they will be pretty persistent in getting that information through to you. And in my work as well, it's like I used to suffer from insomnia. I just couldn't ever sleep. I was so busy. Do you ever have those nights when you feel like you're working all night long, or you're talking in your sleep?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, a lot of times those people, or those beings that have passed out of their bodies that want to connect with you, they'll come to you in dream state, because your cognitive mind, or that prefrontal, is shut down, and you're in a delta state. So it's easier for them to connect with you in dream state. So, you know, oftentimes when we think we're dreaming, you know, you could ask, or ask for the awareness to remember it in the morning, because sometimes we don't remember our dreams, but a lot of times they'll come at night in your dreams, because they can connect with you more. You know, for me, I had to really be quite firm with myself in setting office hours, especially with the animals, because I kind of leave those doors open, especially when I'm gestalt tracking a missing animal or something. It gets a little busy in my bedroom at night. So I had to be very clear about setting office hours for myself. You know, that it's just like, hey, you know what, could you just communicate during my waking time between this hour and this hour? And you could also ask them to show up in a body and pay you as well. You know, that's quite fun. If they will freeload, if they don't, you know, you've got to be quite clear about what you're asking and what your demands are. So, yeah, so it's just like, be aware of that, and ask them to give them a sign, and ask them who they are, and you'll get that awareness. You just know. It's just this deep, quiet knowing. And it sometimes isn't your voice, or it's not the words that you would use, but you would know. You will know. Just ask them. They're waiting for you to ask, you know, to know that they're supporting you, even from the other side in God's counsel. They're there for you. But you have to be willing to ask.
Yeah, that's true. So, Sarah Jane, I know you were going to do an activation or process for a few minutes. What process was that you wanted to do today?
I thought I'd like to give your listeners and you just a little activation and release process. So would you like me to do that now?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, good. So enjoy the ride. All right, so take a few deep breaths in through your nose. And just pull your belly back to touch the front of your spine on that divine line. And breathe out through your mouth. And just release any tension or stress out into the space of all things. And again, just breathe in through your nose. And out. And you can place your hand on your heart if you'd like to. And you can just say this quietly in your head, or just listen, whatever's lighter for you. There's no right or wrong way here. So I ask that my divine, infinite being, my body's Deva higher self, my team's higher self, for their energy fields to work with the energetic fields and the guides to activate the vibration of my own divine connection, my body Deva's higher self, my team's higher self, in my own divine line of being, knowing, perceiving, and receiving, and to pull any and all attachments and desires for all beings on the planet to move into a greater state of connection off of everyone and everything. And hold 100% attachment and desire for your own divine connection of pure white light and connection. And just wait for your yes. It will come. And be kind and gentle. And if you feel any barriers coming up, any resistance in you, just push that down and just breathe into that space. And just keep lifting all of that attachment off of every single being, the planet, all humanity, all sentient beings, past, present, and future, for your own divine connection to access your true nature now. And I invite Highest to return all responsibility to others back to you, back to them with consciousness attached. And lift off all your tools, off of everyone and everything, back to yourself, to release and return all mechanisms and cords back to their rightful place. And as a conscious, infinite being of pure light energy, I now release any and all soul contracts, commitments of any kind, including all oaths, vows, fealties, communities, swearings, promises, binding or bonding contracts of any kind that are no longer serving you. This includes all your guides, team players, animal totems, and spirits, to know that you are now ready to release at the deepest level, because you are now choosing to own and acknowledge full responsibility for you, and that you have mastered the lessons those commitments were here to teach you from the I Am Presence and the Great Central Sun. Please release all spirit psychic attachments that you have created knowingly or unknowingly. You have created as a result, and clear all energies, trauma, drama, memories, stories, energetic bodies, conscious or unconscious, as you raise your vibration on a subatomic level beyond RNA, DNA, LNA, to a level most suited to your highest and greatest good. I ask that my body Deva activate and run it until it is no longer required, any and all circuitry currently creating any difficulties your physical body is having, and any trifold signature systems creating trauma, drama, upset, and intrigue. All the biomimetic mimicking systems, Mobius strips, particles and pieces attached to that, to dissolve now, transmute, destroy, and uncreate across all time, space, dimension, and reality. You are love, you are love, you are love, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just bring yourself back in to you. How was that for you, Shefali?
Wonderful. I'm feeling very spacey and light. You know?
Great.
Like, I just want to lie down and go to sleep.
That over and over again. Have a drink of water.
Yeah.
You might feel a little spacey. You might feel a little thirsty, a little out of your body, and that's okay. Just keep yourself grounded and connected. And that activation will just keep running and running until you no longer require it. And I like to do that often, so you can go back and listen to the replay.
That's lovely. And so, what will that do? That will release all attachments that no longer serve us, release all vows and things like that no longer serve us, and connect us more fully with who we truly are.
Yes, yes, and it's just a way to keep, a coherent field and to just feel into what you desire in the world. To be in your source, into your divine line, and out of that lack and scarcity and fear of feeling separate. So, the more that you start to work with your body Deva, or as we were saying, the physical body, and recognize the energy of the body, then you get used to, being able to hear other voices, and then when you hear or feel a thought or emotion that's not in alignment with your divine knowing, then you'll start to find the ease in knowing and trusting what is yours and what's not yours, And really it is. It's just another practice of quietening the mind and being willing to ask for, what's true and right for you.
Yeah, no, that was great. I like that. I'm going to have to do that again, just because it was. I really felt a shift, during it. So that was nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just like we don't realize just how many oaths and promises that we make.
Right.
Over the last 4 trillion years that we've had physical embodiment, and when you really start to release other people that you're carrying for, and give them back that their own power, that really just starts to empower not just you by pulling your tools off of them and back to you, but also gives them the choice to actually step into, pulling their energy back into their own reality and their own energy fields. And then you can really start to be of service to you, and for them to take service back to themselves. So, knowing that we're actually, I am you and you are me.
Yeah, I like how
our own out.
Yeah, it's about getting rid of that separation, because you're right. That's one of the things that so many of us suffer from, is that separation, right?
And also just I think also what you said too is the suffering, as if that's what we're here to do, and that the only way to actually be is to suffer. So that primary addiction for me is always judgment. So when you start to come from a space of total allowance, then all those sort of secondary addictions, or those sort of demonized thoughts that we have about not being good enough or doing enough, or all the should-haves and the would-haves and the could-haves, and even physical addictions to food or drink, and addicted points of views that we have, then they can start to go away. So if there's a behavior or a pattern that you've been struggling, and struggle's a funny word. I actually thought it was just a South African word, but I hear, the more that I work with people all over the world, I get that struggle is something that we're programmed to do as well, as if that makes us connected.
Yeah.
But, no, that really can start to change when you look at whose struggle is it. And disconnect from taking on that, as maybe in South Africa it's the apartheid struggle, the struggle for freedom. You don't know where you've contracted into maintaining struggle or maintaining suffering. So by clearing oaths and vows and swearings and fealties, even though you may have no idea where they come from, you should just start to sense a different space of being that gives you more freedom to choose something that is in more alignment with your heart space and your desires of what you're here to change in this lifetime. So that one's given me a lot of peace, and I think the more we do it, and the more we're in practice of choosing or demanding that, because there has to be some demand on it too. But then we sort of start to get into a whole different space of being that no longer is an addiction to the suffering or the struggle. And, the best clearings are just really, I always say, choice trumps clearing every time. You can clear and clear and clear, but if you're not willing to make the demand that, whatever this is, you're going to choose a different way, it's not going to change, is it?
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, choice. It's all about choice and what you're choosing now. Okay, so I don't know where the time has gone, and we've talked about so much already, but let's talk about your special offer. Where is it? If you're on the webcast, if you're on the webcast, just click on speaker special offer. If you're on the phone, you can go to awakentohappinessnow.com/Sarah, SARAH. That's awakentohappinessnow.com/Sarah, SARAH. I know I tried to put Sarah Jane, but it's just too long. So,
too long.
Yeah, too long. That's just with Sarah. And Sarah Jane has put together a fantastic offer, which, there's so much in here. So Sarah Jane, you want to talk about that quickly? Because there's a lot. It's the I mean, there's so much cool stuff about entities, about connecting to yourself, about your relationship with who you are and life and the body and so on and so forth. I could be totally wrong, but we're gonna ask Sarah to talk about it.
Yeah, I had great fun putting this together. Yeah, because it's just like what I really wanted to offer is just some, you know, pragmatic, easy tools and processes, and also just a different awareness that's not of this reality. You know, it's a little out the box, but it's just like, why would you not want to know how to, you know, to know how to change any kind of shadow battles that are going up around in your heart space right now, and know that you can change sleeplessness or panic attacks or anxiety, and where you're picking up interference from other people and everything else. So it's a very rounded package to really touch every aspect of, I think, what we're all really asking questions about changing. And the first item is a beautiful MP3 on how you can change, you know, how you look at fear. You know, is it fear or is it misidentified excitement? And just some different questions that you can ask about that. And do you want me to go through every single one of these, or should we just...
No, just generally.
Okay, yeah. The second item is a beautiful introduction to the natural cycle of life. So I call it the feeding cycle in Chinese medicine, how everything feeds everything else. So fire feeds earth, earth feeds metal. And, you know, we are a macrocosm of the microcosm. Every cell has its own internal climate. And this is just a beautiful introduction to a 4-week class that I actually teach on, you know, showing how you can move through the natural flow of life without getting stuck or resisting it or going against the flow. The item 3 is specifically around how to connect with your spirit guide and animal totems and your loved ones. So it's a beautiful guided visualization where you go right down into true alpha, beta, delta state, and start to be able to get messages and awarenesses from wise counsel, and that could be animal totem or any other kind of spirit. So that's a really beautiful exercise that you can use over and over again to connect and receive the information that you require that's appropriate to whatever's coming up in your life. Item 4 is how to embrace the world of spirit, entities and animal guides, and this is an introduction to a class that I teach on spirits, entities, and animal guides. So it'll give you a beautiful tapestry of how you can start to really embrace and look at where you have gifts to assist other people and yourself in the other realms. And item 5 is an exercise to create space, so to stay connected with your body, but also to be infinite space and how you get there. A lot of people don't often realize that we're bigger than the physical body. You know, we are space, and how we can actually go out and receive information from Akashic record and everything else. Connecting with the winged ones is one of my favorites. And this is, again, just a different way of looking at death, you know, and how the animals show us how that there is no death, and that, you know, grief just means to make heavy. So it's a beautiful, enlightening MP3 that is from my Being Human True Animal series, and it's just a lovely way to give you a different way of knowing that we are infinite beings, and just changes death into a celebration of life. So, you know, that natural cycle through life. Item 7 is a clearing and grounding exercise, and also this is much broader and more expansive, so different to the process I ran today, but how you can literally get rid of those old seed and soul contracts and ties that we bind ourselves to on a daily basis. We don't even realize sometimes when we say, oh yeah, let's connect, as in let's have tea or have coffee, that when you're actually making the request to connect, that you're tying yourself back into connecting, energetically into chords and strings and parts of that person's reality that you might not necessarily want to take on. So again, this is one that I really run daily, and it's created a lot more space for me in, staying true to myself and not taking on other people's stuff. And then item, wow, this is a big package. Yeah. So item 8. I tend to be an overgiver. Item 8, how to trust what you know. So again, what we touched on briefly, this is a 90-minute lesson on how to trusting what you know, and how to utilize that to really keep you in that heart space and give you more choice to just go out there and be the best that you can possibly be. And then 9 is a beautiful deep guided meditation. So it's a little subliminal on this one, and it's just, again, something that's really lovely to run at night or while you're driving around. Actually not driving around. This one's really, really deep. So before you go to sleep, or a way to start your day to just keep you, again, in resonance with your heart space and not go into the self-sabotage and the fear and the stress and the worry. So that's a really beautiful, beautiful one. And item 10 is how to call back your energy. So where you were saying, Shefali, that you tend to go away from your body and you go into Pico universes and extrapolation and futures, which is all great.
Yeah,
this one's really, really a great way to, as the lady earlier was saying, that she's empathic. So we tend to be givers. We send a lot of our energy out, and a lot of people will say how depleted they feel. When you kind of meet someone and you're exhausted at the end of it because they've pulled away a lot of your energies. This is just a great exercise to get your energies to come back to you, where you've scattered them all over the place, and just get you to be filled up again and revitalized and back in all of you. Stop being scattered around. So if you're kind of feeling switched off, or you're feeling scattered or a little chaotic, this is a really, really great exercise to use to get your energies back from wherever you've sent them out to. Yeah, it's wonderful. That one's one of my favorites. And of course, all of this is for me because everything I create comes from a space of looking at, I don't have all my shit together. And sometimes, it's like it's a place I really create from is how can I be greater than I was yesterday. And that's really how I get to empower, is how many other people are going through exactly the same thing for me. And then the bonus that's in there is that you get a 30-minute Skype session with me, which is a value of $150 all on its own. And that can be about anything. So we can do entity clearings if it's required, or really anything that you'd like to address that's coming up as a limitation for you in your life. And then there is a $100 gift certificate of my one of my 4-week teleseries, which really is about getting into the flow of your life and expanding your joy through the feeding cycle. So just a beautiful, deeper look into just enjoying being in a body and going with the flow of your true nature. So that's pretty much it in all its joy and glory.
That's a lot. There's a lot of items in this package. Yeah, and you're right. There's all, it covers a whole gamut of things. So, there's, like some of the ones that I like, especially, I definitely like the calling back your energy. I definitely like the one about, how to connect with your guides and things like that. I like, just the one. There's just so many, that can be used on a regular, everyday basis, right?
Absolutely, and they, you know, even it applies to every aspect of your life. You know, this is really to just get us to know that we're not alone and that you are totally supported, and all you have to do is ask. So it may be a person in a body, and it might be a person not in a body. And I just love working with animal totems. You know, and animals is a big part of who I be and what I wanted to contribute back to the earth. And for me, the messages that the animals bring, either in physical beingness or in dream state or in that guided activation, are beautiful. And I know you do a lot of shamanic work, Shefali, and that's just such a beautiful way to actually go and meet your guides and go on a journey and just to see how beautiful you actually are and what a gift and contribution you are in the world. And animals really show us how to do that.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, absolutely. So like I said again, the offer is at awakentohappinessnow.com/Sarah, SARAH. That's awakentohappinessnow.com/Sarah, SARAH. And take a look at it. If it resonates with you, you know, choose it. Choose what works for you. And I like how you put the 30-minute session with you in there, you know. So I think that'll be really key for a lot of people, because, you know, just 30 minutes with you will do a whole world of good. It will help them clear quite a bit of stuff and get clarity in their life, right?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and also sometimes there's questions and things that come up when you go through the items in the package. It's going to, you know, start to dissipate all the places where you have perhaps been in a false sense of security. And we do wobble and shake a little bit after this because you're opening up so much space. So that 30 minutes is really just going to give you a platform for you to clear any of that stuff that you're maybe, you know, wanting to call back, the mean, nasty demons that you have perhaps hired in another lifetime to keep you from you, or just to look at stuff that's going on in your body. So that's
absolutely
kind of just the cherry on the top.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So I know we're already at that time. It's like, I don't know where the time went. It happened so fast. And when we talked about so many different things, and we also did an activation process as well. So we covered a lot on this call. So thank you so much, Sarah Jane, and thank you so much for all the listeners for being on the call and listening again later. And thank you for the caller for calling in and sharing, you know, what is going on with you. That takes a lot of courage, so I really appreciate that. Thank you. So Sarah Jane, do you have any last words of wisdom for us?
Words of wisdom. I don't know. I think I'd just love to invite everybody to just let go and laugh a lot and honor your ebbs and flows, and just to create a container of safety for yourself, and embrace the shadow side and allow yourself some kindness and caring of yourself, to just open your heart and be the best that you possibly can be.
Wonderful. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. We were at a special time today, not a normal time, but I had fun. It was quite enjoyable. I learned so much from Sarah Jane. So thank you so much, Sarah Jane. Thank you, everybody, for being on the call. Thank you for listening again on the replay. And, you know, continue to live a life full of joy, peace, love, and happiness. And I will see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Shefali. Good night.
Good night. Bye, Sarah Jane. Thank you.